Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Jenny Allen, and before we get started with today's video, please make sure that you are subscribed, that you thumbs up this video, and you check all the information in the description box below. Okay, so let's get started. So for today's video, I'm going to put the introduction that I did to Proverbs 31 in the description box below, so you can also watch that video. And this is the continuation from that video. We're going to go through Proverbs 31 and we're just going to break it down. But as always with my videos, it's really important that you go in and do your own study. Because that's really, really important. And I just want to share some things that really ministered to me when I looked at this chapter, and I just want to break down a few things for you in small bites so that from my video you can grasp some more information about the Proverbs 31 woman. Now, the Proverbs 31 woman is, in Christendom, the Proverbs 31 woman is a woman who is heralded as the absolute, standard for a woman. But when I read Proverbs 31, when I read it, it is a woman who has a lot on her plate. And one of the things that we actually forget about the Proverbs 31 woman is that I've got some notes here to remember. One of the things we've got to remember about the Proverbs 31 woman is that she had help. If you read it through, I'd really encourage you to read it through very carefully. She had help because she provided things for her servants and her maidservants. You can go through there and you can read it. She provided for the women in her household, for the people in her household that helped her. To be a businesswoman, to be a wife, to be a mother, to be so many different things. Women, we have so many hats. And all of that needs help. She was not just a housewife. We've got to remember that. She was just not a housewife. She had multiple roles. She was a businesswoman. She was checking out land to buy. When you read it, you will see what she actually does for her business. She was extremely busy. She went to bed late. She got up early, but she made sure she provided for her household. And in today's society, 2021, for a woman to be all of that who is married, you're going to need help. You're going to need help. She didn't do it on her own. She had help. Now, the characteristics of a Proverbs 31 woman also applies to single women. And this passage builds character traits that are important for life. This chapter will show you character traits that will help to build you as an individual, as a single woman. And we're going to go through and look at some of these things as well. So don't think that the Proverbs 31 woman is just about married women. No, it is about all women. And some of her characteristics we can apply to our individual lives. And the last note that I've got here to remember is that she was praised not because she was married, but because she feared the Lord. She was praised because she feared the Lord, not because of her marital status, not because of her status. It was because she feared the Lord. Okay, so let's go through and see what we've got here. What I've got here to share. So, verses 1 to 9 talks about King Lemuel. And some scholars believed that King Lemuel to be Solomon and his mother Bathsheba. But King Lemuel is not listed as a king of Israel or Judah. And scholars believe that he was most probably a pagan king who trusted Yahweh. Who trusted God. So that's King Lemuel. But King Lemuel had a wise mother. Now, verses 1 to 9 are instructions from King Lemuel's mother to himself. She gave him instruction about how to rule and how to live his life and the dangers of certain things. Now, Lemuel means belonging to God. Belonging to God. So, in verses 1 to 9, Lemuel's mother warns him of the following dangers. So, verses 2 to 3, she warns him about sexual immorality. Verses 4 to 7, she speaks of the dangers of excessive alcohol. Because as a king in those times, it was like absolute rule. And if you're a king, you cannot afford for your judgment to be clouded. And the dangers of excessive alcohol can impair your judgment in your leadership. And even today, we can look at that. Excessive alcohol can impair our judgment and the way that we live our lives as well. So we can, apply this to today. Verses 8 to 9, defending the defenseless. And, they had a lot of poor and widows and different things like that in the Bible times. But today, we have a lot of people who are defenseless and broken in our society. And as Christians, we have a responsibility to assist them, to defend them. The Bible talks about, especially like in the book of Psalms and Proverbs, it talks a lot about defending the poor, helping the poor, stretching your hand out to the poor. It is a very, very important principle for us to follow today, especially in the 21st century. And as you know, we are in a pandemic, and it's important to be able to extend our hand to people who are less fortunate than we are. Sometimes you might see somebody banging on the street. They want a meal, they want a hot drink, or there are various charities that we can donate to online. It's very important as a Christian to make sure that we are doing something to assist the poor, to assist the defenseless. And that is something that King Lemuel's mother told him that as king he must do. So these three things of what his mother warned him about: sexual immorality, the dangers of excessive alcohol, and defending the defenseless. And as I said, we can apply these three things to our lives today as Christians. Now, one of the facts, when I was looking at this, one of the facts that I found out about Proverbs 31 is that from verses 10 to 31, there are 22 verses. And each of these verses begin with a successive letter of the Hebrew alphabet. And the verses 10 to 31, it is basically an alphabet of wifely excellence. It's an alphabet. It's an A to Z of how a wife should be, what a wife should be, how a woman should conduct herself. And it's organized in the arrangement of virtues of a wise wife. So it's an A to Z, it's an alphabet of a virtuous, wise woman. A virtuous, wise wife. As I said before, if you're not married, you can still apply these things to your life. And the lifestyle of the Proverbs 31 woman should give you, an inkling of what the Bible looks for, or what the Bible says a virtuous wife should be. But always remember that she had help. She had help. So let's break down the different verses. Okay, so let's break down the different verses. So verses 10 to 14 speaks of her character and value and her relationship with her husband. As women, we've got to take time to build up our character and recognize our own value, because if we were expecting someone else to see our value and we don't, that's not going to be fruitful. That's not going to bear fruit. So we have to, first of all, by the grace of God, see our value as women, and we have to recognize and build up our character. That's important. And verses 10 to 14, as I said, it speaks of her relationship with her husband. Verses 13 to 16 talks about her work, what she actually does. So let's have a look at verses 13 to 16. And I'm going to be reading it from my Woman Thou Art Loose Bible. And let me read that. The Woman Thou Art Loose Bible is the New King James Version. So let's have a look at verses 13 to 16. It says, she seeks wool and flax and willingly works with her hands. She is like the merchant ships. She brings her food from afar. She also rises while it is yet night and provides food for her household and a portion for her maidservants. She considers a field and buys it. From her profits, she plants a vineyard. Okay, so she works with flax. She seeks wool and flax, and she works with her hands. She is like a merchant ship. She brings her food from afar. So she imports food. She gets up in the middle of the night and makes sure that her household is provided for. And she also provides for her maidservants. She considers land and buys it. And from her profits, she plants a vineyard. She knows what to do with her profit. She doesn't get her profits and then just spends it. She goes and she acquires more land. So she's an investor. She's an investor. Verses 17 to 20, it talks about her strength and her compassion. She girds herself with strength and strengthens her arms. So she takes time to build up her strength. She is strong and she is compassionate. And strength and compassionate, for me, it goes back to her character that we were looking at in verses 10 to 14. So she has strength and compassion. Okay, so verses 21 to 23. You see, I've got my mistakes here. So I do cross them out and make my amendments, but I leave my crossings out there for you to see. So verses 21 to 23, it shows that she is industrious. She is industrious. So let's have a look. Verses 21 to 23. She is not afraid of snow for her household, for all her household is clothed with scarlet. She makes tapestry for herself. Her clothing is fine linen and purple. Her husband is known in the gates when he sits among the elders of the land. So she is industrious. She's not afraid of, she doesn't care what kind of weather it is. She's going to make sure that her household is looked after and they're provided for. She makes her own clothes and she dresses in the best linen and purple. And purple is a reflection of royalty. And her husband is known in the gates. When they did business in Bible times, the men used to sit at the gate. That's where they did business. And it was at the gate, I think it was in Ruth chapter 2 or Ruth chapter 3, where Boaz had to go and sort out the kinsman redeemer in order for him to marry Ruth. So business was conducted at the gate. So that just shows the status of her husband. So while her husband was there, she made sure, with the help of her maidservants, that her house was provided for. Her house was provided for. So verses 24 to 25, the clothing she sells and the clothing she has. The clothing she sells and the clothing that she has. 24 to 25, she makes linen garments and sells them, and supplies sashes for the merchants. Strength and honor are her clothing. She shall rejoice in time to come. Strength and honor are her clothing. That's what she puts on. That's what she wears. She doesn't only just wear, fine linen and purple. Her spirit is also clothed in strength and honor. So she does a lot of inner work. Sometimes we can be all dressed up on the outside, but our heart and what is inside of us, it needs clothing. So we not only need to work on the outside, but we also need to work on the inside. How is our heart clothed? Is our heart clothed with strength and honor? Or is it clothed with bitterness, unforgiveness? How are we clothed on the inside? How are we clothed on the inside? Because the Proverbs 31 woman, she is clothed with strength and honor. Strength and honor. So verses 26 to 27 also talks about her inner life. It says that she opens her mouth with wisdom, and on her tongue is the law of kindness. How are we speaking? What are we saying? How do we speak to people? How do we respond to people? We've got to remember, the Bible talks about that life and death is in the power of the tongue. And it says here that on her tongue is the law of kindness. Her tongue, the words she speaks, is governed by a law of kindness, is governed by a law. So with her words, she exudes kindness. How are we speaking? How do we speak to people? How do we respond to people? Because to be a Proverbs 31 woman, we've got to work on our speech. We've got to be careful what we say and how we respond to people. Verses 28 to 29. Her family's public praise. Her family publicly praise her. Her family publicly praises her. Let's have a look at that. Her children rise. Oh, let's go back to 27. She watches over the ways of her household and does not eat the bread of idlers. So she's not lazy. She's careful of her household and she's not lazy. And then verse 28, her children rise up and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her. Many daughters have done well, but you excel them all. This is what her husband is saying about her. Many daughters have done well, but you excel them all. Her husband praises her because he sees that she's industrious. He sees that she brings all these qualities to his household. She's an actual asset. And, when we look at the Proverbs 31 woman, even me, I've been married for this year will be 34 years. It's not easy leading a household and then having time to look after yourself as well. Because I've got 2 children. Many women, most probably, who are watching this video, they have children, they're married. Some of you most probably single. But if you study this particular passage of scripture as a single woman, it will give you an inkling as to the responsibilities of marriage. Marriage has a lot of responsibilities for a woman. It has responsibilities for men and women. But when you become married, you have a lot of responsibilities in the household. Even though now, which is really good, a lot of men, they chip in because the wife is working and everything is 50-50 split down the middle. And, couples are working together, and that is excellent. But it's still beautiful for a wife to hear from her husband and, for him to tell her that she's doing a great job, that he loves her, that he says all the right things to her, which builds her self-esteem. And here, the Proverbs 31 woman's husband is telling her that you excel them all. Many women have done well. Many daughters have done well. But you excel them all. He sees her industrious nature and he appreciates it. And the last 2 verses, The praise and reward of a wise woman. The praise and reward of a wise woman. Charm is deceitful, and beauty is passing. But a woman who fears the Lord, she shall be praised. Give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her own works praise her in the gates. Isn't that beautiful? Charm is deceitful and beauty is passing. But a woman, you see, charm and beauty, these things will fade. Beauty will fade. People now get plastic surgery, they get Botox, they get so many different things. But in the end, beauty will fade. But it is a woman who fears the Lord, she shall be praised. So yes, it's important to look on the outside, but what's really, really important is cultivating a heart that is beautiful. We can be beautiful on the outside, but if you have an ugly heart that's bitter, that's unforgiving, and all the other things that are not good, if you have an ugly heart, that is not going to work for you. That is just not going to work for you. And it says here, but a woman who fears the Lord, she shall be praised. So in summing this all up, yes, the Proverbs 31 woman, she does a lot for her household. She has a lot of responsibilities and she carries them out well with help. But at the end, it is the woman who fears the Lord, she shall be praised. This woman obviously feared the Lord because her husband was praising her. He was encouraging her. He was boosting her self-esteem by saying, that she excels all the other women that he might know. She is excellent. So the verse 31 says, give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her own works praise her in the gate. The works of her hands, they will be fruitful. The works of her hands, they will be fruitful because she carries out her business with integrity. She manages her home with integrity, and she manages her life, her personal life and herself with integrity. And when you do that, you are bound to bear fruit in life. And your works, the things that you do, you've sown that seed of good works, and you're going to reap those seeds. You're going to reap a harvest of good works. It might not be immediate, but you will reap a harvest of good works. So I hope that this video ministered to you. I know there's loads of videos on YouTube about the Proverbs 31 woman, and this video is just an addition to that collection. But I really pray that it will encourage you to go and read and study this Proverbs 31 woman chapter for yourself, and that you can take bits of her characteristics. You can take, snippets from how she carried herself and how she managed herself as a woman with multiple roles, multiple things to do. And I hope that you can gain something from that and apply it to your own life. Okay, so don't forget to subscribe, thumbs up this video, and don't forget to check the description box below. Thank you so much, and God bless you. And also leave me a comment if you've had personal study with the Proverbs 31 woman, and leave me, what you have gained. Leave me a comment in the comment section below. Okay, God bless, and I'll see you in my next video.